Do you ever stop and wonder, how did California become a state? Most of us don't stop and think back to history class. I am at a very significant location here in Southern California, and stay tuned because I'm about to share with you all the details as to where we're at and why this is special. I'm Corrie Sommers, your local Los Angeles Realtor. In the next few moments, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, take a moment to click the subscribe button, bell for updates, and you just might want to get out a pen and paper and take notes. Hi everyone, it's me, Corrie Sommers, your local Los Angeles Realtor. I am here today at Campo de Cahuenga with Diane McCreary, who is, well, we're gonna talk about what is Campo de Cahuenga, what is its significance, the history that is really housed here, and the importance of it. If you've ever bought or sold a home with me, you know I'm like really big on history, and I think it's something that's long and forgotten, and so many of us breeze by places and don't know the significance. I even shared with Diane, for years I drove past Campo de Cahuenga, I had no idea what it was, it's completely oblivious. So why don't you share what exactly is Campo de Cahuenga?
Okay, this site was the original site of the signing of the capitulation on January 13th, 1847 with John Fremont and Andreas Pico. There were no shots fired, and everything was peaceful, and John Fremont had the help of a woman from Santa Barbara, Mrs. Ruiz. She helped him write the capitulation treaty, and later a treaty was written in Mexico. But this one was significant because John Fremont did not want the Californios to go away with empty hands. So he allowed them to keep all their ranchos. Well, because he did that, the U.S. government wasn't too pleased with him. So they were going to they took him off in shackles, actually, arrested him for doing that because they felt that he did not have the power to do so. So anyway, all worked out well, and he became a senator, a governor, and later on, I believe he moved to New York, but he was in Arizona. He was what the United States called the Pathfinder. And so he would blaze trails so that wagon trains and whatever could come this way through Washington State, Oregon, and California. So his main purpose was, he was sent here by the President of the United States to do exactly what he did. And this actually is the most significant historical site west of the Mississippi. So we have a reenactment here and have had for many years, every year closest to January 13th. However, due to the recent COVID outbreak, we have not had one. So we're going to be doing something on January 18th here in the evening, and Fritz Coleman is going to be our MC. So it should be a delightful way of learning about history, right. And maybe not just the Campo, but about Los Angeles history, because this was not only the Campo site, it was the Butterfield stage stop. Before anything happened, the Indians lived here. And it was close to the Los Angeles River, so they had their fishing and whatever. So we also have a replica of the actual, it was dug up during the MTA when they were building the Red Line, and they built an adobe outside in part of our parkland, and it goes clear across the street. You can go up to a tall building and look down, and you can see that it goes clear over to Universal. So it was a huge building, looked like it was a 2-story building. So we don't know exactly what they used it for, but it was part of the mission system in California.
So here's what I think is so interesting, and where it's a shame that some history is getting lost, right? In the 1800s, when America was settling the wild, wild west, right? And we all know the heavy influence in California from Mexico, because it was part of Mexico, right? And so you had the Spanish-American War, which is what the treaty we're talking about was a part of, which helped establish California as part of the United States. You would think that would not be a violation and something to get arrested for. Like, how stupid is that? But hey, things happen, right? You don't have the right to do this. Not unheard of even today, correct? We know plenty of situations where people get arrested for telling the truth. It's just part of...
Well, this court-martial was a way to let him know that the other officers that were American officers that were coming up, Stockton and different ones, did not appreciate what he did.
And it's interesting when you hear these names of people, and then you picture areas, towns, Fremont, Stockton, Northern California, Pico, the Boulevard, Fremont. I'm sorry, I said Fremont, but even just some of the early landholders that have streets named after them, Lankershim, Cahuenga, Moore Park. It's we don't stop and think. If you're less than 40 years old, you just know these streets. You don't know the full history. And so share with when this particular lot was bought and that this was built, to share that whole history was exactly when?
Mrs. Forbes, who was the person that made the El Camino de Real bells, she, in her foundry, she actually is the person that wanted to preserve this site. So she bought this property, then she gave it to the city, and she helped raise the money to build this adobe. So if it wasn't for her, this probably wouldn't exist, because she spearheaded it.
Right.
And actually, the foundry is still in existence. They still make bells. You can buy them online. And so we actually took the original El Camino Real bell that was in front of the adobe, and it's now housed inside. So basically, we have one of the originals. And you know, it's this land was used for a veterinary clinic and all kinds of things. And when they were digging here for bones or whatever, you have to have an archaeologist whenever you draw a shovel on this land. They found dog bones, every kind of bones you could find. So they found some artifacts, but they were not significant to what you would think, that, you know, pottery and different things like that. But
and you know, it's interesting. Robin Allen, who is a resident of Toluca Lake and involved with several of the organizations, had shared a video of Richard Bogie, who has passed this year, who was a longtime Toluca Lake resident, whose family had a lot to do with the development of housing in Toluca Lake, was sharing the history and talking about Campo de Cahuenga and how cannon fodder fire was going back and forth, and people would go up in the hills and watch the fire back and forth, and how common it is if you're digging up your yard in this general area, Toluca Lake, North Hollywood, Studio City, to find cannonballs.
Cannonball. You dig for a swimming pool, you might just come up with one.
Yeah. So it's like there's so much history here that is kind of getting lost, and I think this reminds me of when I went and toured in Tustin. There's that the old Town Tustin, the Tustin. It almost looks like a barn, but a Dolby, and you tour it, and they talk about history, and you know, I went there as a kid. These places are diminishing.
Yes.
And I think it's a shame. You know, yes, development needs to happen, and I sell real estate, so of course, you know, I understand old homes get knocked down, new homes get built, homes get renovated, because things just don't stand and stay forever. But is there a risk of this ever going away?
Well, we're protected by the county and the city and the state, but it's just the building. So basically, you never know. Hopefully, this will always remain here, but we don't know. So for now, yes, it's going to be it's permanent fixture in the city of Los Angeles. So, and it's probably one of the most historic sites in the city of Los Angeles, where a significant thing happened here.
Right.
And well, years ago, this was a Butterfield stage station. And in 2011, we actually got a stagecoach, horses, everything. We went down Ventura Boulevard with the help of our councilman, Tom Labange. We went down Ventura Boulevard, clear to the line of Adobe, which is in Calabasas. So it was quite a ride. I rode in a car behind it. There was only so many people that could ride in the stagecoach. But it was quite a thing. The streets for Ventura was lined up with people watching this happening. Wow. And so it was quite a wonderful experience to actually be part of history.
Yeah. Way
back when the stagecoach used to actually go down that route to and over the pass to deliver goods and people and whatever. And so the site has been significant in many other ways besides the Indians originally lived here, and we have a plaque dedicated to them outside also.
And so, as you mentioned, it is kind of when you talked about stagecoach, it's wild when we think about how far we've come, right? As far as cars and mail and email and phones and everything like at your fingers, but people used to have to, it would take days to get places. It would take hours upon hours.
Well, just think going over the Cahuenga Pass. One lane one way, one lane another way. And then my husband's grandfather said, oh, no, we have to open this up for commerce. So that's when they opened the Cahuenga Pass. But there was no freeway going through.
And now there's a freeway going through it. And, even sometimes, even driving today in the Cahuenga Pass can get bottlenecked.
Oh, yeah. I drove it for years. Yes, yes. I used to call the hills the Weeping Hills because there's so much water that comes through. There's a lot of streams. And when they were building the Red Line, they had, through Runyon Canyon, they actually got flooded. They still have a sub pump, I think, down there pumping water.
Wow. Because
there's so much water in the mountains there.
And yet we went through how many years of a drought?
Yes.
And there's water? Sometimes the mismanagement of things. That's all I'm going to say. Well, hopefully this stays here forever. And 100 years from now when, everything is nothing but high rises, this will just be this lovely little plot of land with benches and fountain and this adobe with a moment of history that so many of us have driven by. This Campo de Cahuenga is literally across the street from Universal. So I'm sure most of you that have watched this have been to Universal, and depending on which way you entered Universal, if you went up to City Walk, you entered right here off of Lankershim, and you've driven by this and you probably haven't even noticed. I strongly recommend, if you guys can, come out to the reenactment, Campo de Cahuenga, that's coming up January 2024, and it's taking place on the 18th?
Yes.
On the 18th, and what are the times?
I believe it's 5 or 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock.
You can double check the website. Do they purchase access and tickets on the website? Come out, because there's history here that you're missing. And
one nice thing, it's free.
Okay, so you don't have to pay for admission. So
free parking and free entertainment.
Free parking, free entertainment. Get a dose of history. Understand where California, I don't want to use the word emancipated, but where California no longer became a part of Mexico, but really a part of the United States. And that should really impact all of us that live here in Southern California, whether you've moved here or born and raised. This is a big part of history. I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. When we talked about this a little over a month ago, I was like, I don't want a time to go by where you're not here to share the story of this special location, and also I think you should mention how your family's been involved as well.
Well, my husband actually is the person that kind of revived this site. He was one of the Weddington grandchildren, and his great-grandfather, Wilson C. Weddington, started North Hollywood and basically brought the railhead in. So my husband was able to help with Richard Bogey's help to preserve the train station, the original train station, which is over 100 years old.
In North Hollywood?
In North Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then he helped bring the Orange Line in because they were about to lose their right-of-way. And he worked with the MTA line people to make sure that something happened there. So they wouldn't lose the right-of-way. And helped bring the subway system in because his family was great on transportation. Everybody has to come and buy something because they were farmers and they were selling their goods. So, it was all about bringing people in to the valley. And this is actually, North Hollywood is actually the part of the East San Fernando Valley that is the beginning to the rest of the San Fernando Valley.
Right.
So it's kind of the opening of it. And there's still the house that his great-grandfather brought on rail and reconstructed here from Iowa. And it's on Weddington Street. It's also something that you can go in and visit as well. It's, if you don't try to keep your history, you lose it all, and then nobody knows where anybody came from.
Exactly.
Actually, there's a memorial to Lankershim up in the Studio City Hills, and where he's actually buried.
See, things you probably didn't know. And honestly, I didn't even know about the train station, and I had lived in North Hollywood for a number of years until they brought in the subway, and they made it this, it became not just a historical site, but also a coffee shop. And so I was meeting with a buyer, and he said, hey, let's meet over at Groundworks, I think is what it was. And I was like, what is this? I mean, I literally had lived not even a half a mile away for a number of years.
They were,
had no idea.
They were actually supposed to use part of it to put in some historic photos of the area the way it was back in when they came in 1897, but the fellow didn't want to do that, so I have them. If they ever want them, I have them. They can just blow them up and do whatever they want with them. But
I think that's amazing. We should have a little chat about that. Thank you so much for taking the time with me today. You guys, I hope you caught some information. This is a little bit of a different interview, but again, Campo de Cahuenga does a reenactment every January. You can always come and check this out anytime. Let's say you're driving back and there's traffic. What are the hours of operation here again?
Well, right now they're here on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. I think Thursdays and Fridays you're here from 11 to 2. 10 to 2.
Okay.
And then Saturdays you're here from 10 to
10 to 2. Okay. So look, if you want to take the kids out, show them a little bit of California history on a Saturday, or if you have a day off on a Thursday or Friday, 10 to 2, just drop by. There's parking here, as was shared earlier. You don't have to pay for the parking. Come on in. There's a lot to look at, and I wouldn't say an overwhelming amount. It's not like going to a huge museum, but just really specifically related to California and California becoming California versus part of land owned by Mexico. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. See you guys next time.
Bye.